All right, fellas, you better go get it started here in a minute. Make sure you go ahead and leave a like on the video, and if you're in here, make sure you go ahead and say what's good in the chat, and then I'm about to go ahead and start it up here in a minute. All right, fuck the timer, man. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 84, talking about an interesting topic today. We're going to be talking about how you define your own identity, and we're going to be talking about developing a new identity as well. So, if you're in here, I appreciate you stopping by. Like I said, make sure to leave a like, and we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Give me 1 second. Also, if you have any questions regarding identity, or creating a new one, or defining your own identity that you have right now, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about that today. All right, give me 1 second. All right. So a few things I want to say before I go and actually get it started. Make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts. I posted 4 today, as well as the TikToks as well. I posted 3 today as well. Also, I posted another video, just a few beliefs that I've internalized that have helped me out in my life. So if you do want to go ahead and watch the podcast in short form, that isn't a 60-second clip, I would recommend watching that video. It's like about 8 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you go ahead and tap in with that for sure. But other than that, I'll go ahead and get it started, right? So you need to ask yourself, how would you define yourself? If somebody asked you about yourself, how would you specifically go about describing yourself? What identity would you adopt? What certain identities would you adopt, and what certain identities would initially pop up when you think about this question? So, um, this is something that I have been thinking about for a while, and I do think about a lot of things a lot more thoroughly than most people. So I can give you my list. I'm not going to give it to you exactly right now, but I'll give you my list eventually in this podcast. If you're curious to know of the list that I curated for myself, right? That is going to involve, um, how I would define myself personally. But this is going to be interesting because, like I said, creating a new identity is something that I think everybody should do. There should be certain seasons in life where you adopt a new identity, where you choose to do things differently. And if you're a person that isn't doing this every so often, I truly think that you're running in place. Quite frankly, I don't think there's any other way to put it. Right? You're not doing enough. You're not creating enough change. You're not adapting to new circumstances. Right? So I do believe that so there's certain times of the year where you're going to need to change, whether it's your routine, whether it's your work pattern, whether it's certain habits. Right? There's going to be some changes that are needed. You cannot stay unless you have a perfect schedule, perfect habits, do everything you need to do all the time, like nobody does, right? Um, I would say, like I said, change and have seasons. Even if you're doing everything you're supposed to do, make sure you have different habits that you do every so often. Like let's just say for a month you do a certain habit, or for like a 6 month period you do a certain habit, and then you stop doing it, right? So that's something I would recommend for anybody to do, is just to be a seasonal version of yourself. That's the way I would describe it, right? Be a seasonal version of yourself. Um, but yeah, so with creating an identity, right? It all what a lot of it comes down to, and the foundation that it comes down to, is the habits that you choose to uphold, right? And every time you choose a good habit, you're pretty much giving a vote to that certain identity. And every single time you choose a negative habit or something that's not going to serve you, you're upholding that identity as well, right? You're upholding a negative identity. And this is a concept that I got from this book called Atomic Habits, which is something that I would definitely recommend anybody watching this to go ahead and read. It is a very, very digestible book. very, very practical, and it talks about building habits and breaking your old bad habits. So it talks about you need to start at the core, which is going to be your identity. What do you associate with your identity, right? What are the negative things specifically that you associate with your identity, if at any at all? Which, if you're watching this, you know my opinion on upholding a negative identity, right? This is something that I would never recommend to anybody, right? There's going to be certain negative perspectives that you have on yourself, negative paradigms that you see the world through, right? And I do believe that it is your responsibility to go ahead and change those for yourself, right? You should never associate with negativity, and you need to learn how to disassociate yourself from negative paradigms or negative identity, right? So let's just say somebody says, shout out to grandma. My grandma did this recently, and I was very, very proud of her for doing that. My grandma said, she was notorious in my family for being late, to the point where people made inside jokes about it. So she made it a point to say, "Hey, I want to create a new identity and be on time more, right?" And she has been on time a lot more. And with that specifically said, like, even when people were to say something negative about her, I would go out of my way to correct them and saying that's not her anymore, right? And you need to have those people that are willing to uphold that identity with you as well, which I think just goes down to pretty much who you have around you, right? And you need to have the right circle around you. You need to have supportive people who are going to push you towards your better self and will encourage that positive behavior. So that is the way I would like to start off the podcast. Like I said, if you're in here, I appreciate you for stopping by. Make sure to leave a comment just like Z's in here, and I hope that you guys leave some comments just so we can have some more of an interesting conversation. Um, yeah, and it's just something that I've seen. I've seen too often. That's the reason why I have to tell you guys to disassociate from negative identities, is because I see so many people talking bad about themselves, right? All the time. I see this. I see people talking bad about who they are, and I'm just like, why would you ever say anything negative about yourself? Not to say that there aren't negative aspects about you, right? So when I say don't talk about these things or learn to disassociate yourself from these things, I'm talking about corrective behavior. I'm talking about change the way you speak. I'm talking about change the way you act, right? I'm not saying don't acknowledge your insufficiencies. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you're by yourself, and think about these things thoroughly, and once you think about these things thoroughly, you need to create a plan of action for yourself, where you say, hey, this is something that I like that I'm doing, and this is something that I don't like that I'm doing. And you need to be able to, like I said, go ahead and correct your behavior, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your potential, right? You are responsible for reaching your maximum potential. And if you're not able to reach your maximum potential, quite frankly, you're living a life less than what you should be living, quite frankly, in my opinion, right? I do believe everyone should be living up, or at least trying to live up to their potential. Anyone that is, not refusing to, uphold the identity of, their best potential, I do believe that they're holding everyone around them back unconsciously, right? They think that they're just harming themselves, when in reality, you are harming the ones around you unconsciously. You're unconsciously not allowing them to live the best life that they possibly can. You're not allowing them to, surround themselves with truly the best people, the best quality of people, right? And this is why I take these things very, very seriously, because, quite frankly, I realize the impact. Even if you don't even know that many people, right? If you have a few people around you, right, you need to recognize the impact that people around you have, as especially with the environment that you choose to stay around as well. So, like I said, don't associate with negativity. That's something that you should never do. Stay away from it as much as possible. And if you do come across you saying something negative about yourself, or if you do come across yourself, choosing a negative behavior, choosing a negative identity to uphold, right? I want you to be more conscious in the moment when you choose to do those things, right? Say, hey, at the very least, you need to at least have the thought impulse pop into your mind, right? Saying, hey, I know right now that this is not going to serve me. This is a bad habit. This is a bad identity that I'm upholding. Now, right? If you choose to go ahead and go forth with it, that's on you, right? But at least you acknowledge the fact that that's not the right thing you should be doing, right? And the first part about, trying to go about a problem is first acknowledging that a problem does exist, right? So you acknowledge the problem exists, that's okay, right? The next step is trying to implement better solutions to avoid, coming across those certain identities or certain habits that you have, right? That is going to be the next step. And eventually, over time, if you kick yourself in the ass for choosing a negative identity, eventually you're going to, have that corrective behavior. That just I hope that's what I hope, at least, right? And I would even say that for myself, right? I'm a person who, strategically lives life, right? And there's certain moments in time where I'm like, hey, maybe I'm choosing a habit that isn't the best. But what I will say though is just me acknowledging that is still going to put me ahead of everybody else at my age, quite frankly, right? Because I'm choosing to at least recognize and not be so naive to the fact that I know that I'm doing something I know I probably shouldn't be doing, right? And everybody, I don't care what you say, everybody does something they know they probably shouldn't be doing. That is human nature in itself, right? But it's more about acknowledging it and then eventually over time correcting that behavior, right? Now, no one's perfect. Like I said, you're going to have your flaws, and that is okay, right? You should strive for the best version of yourself that you possibly can. Like I said, strive for your best potential. But at the end of the day, you need to realize that you need to at least acknowledge your insufficiencies. You need to acknowledge them. That's just a must for sure. Now, give me 1 second, fellas. Like I said, if you like what I'm talking about, man, make sure you leave in the comments. Like I said, leave a like. If you're rewatching this, make sure you go and leave a like as well. All right. Another thing that I want to mention is this right here. This is something that I would recommend for everyone to do watching this for sure, right? I would create a heaven and hell scenario for the identity or your potential identity, right? So let's just say right now you let all the bad habits, all the bad vices take over you right now. Okay. Where would your life trajectory go? It would obviously be going down, right? You'd pick up on all the bad things. You'd treat people a certain way that isn't, exactly positive. And just try to cultivate all these thoughts surrounding what you could potentially do if you fell into temptation, fell into lust, fell into all of these negative behaviors and negative habits, right? What type of person would you be? And then at the same time, by making that is it's going to make it a lot easier to realize what you value and more importantly what you would be if you were to reach your potential. The heaven and hell scenario is definitely going to be implemented here, right? So for the heaven aspect or looking at your highest potential that you could possibly achieve, what does that person do? Be very very clear what that person does, right? Let's just say you're going to the gym once a week, right? Maybe that person's going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, 6 times a week, right? Like me. But you need to be very very clear with what specifically you're striving for, and a lot of people do not know what they're striving for. A lot of people don't know who they want to be, right? And the way that I would try to give you the best advice that I possibly could give you is recognize other people in their greatness, right? Recognize people in their own weakness themselves, right? And say, hey, I don't want to be like this person, and I specifically do want to be like this person. There's certain things about this person that I want to be like, and there's certain things about this person that I would like to stay away from, right? So the second you start making those decisions, those conscious efforts, right? The second you start making those conscious decisions and efforts, you're going to begin to, like I said, be very, very clear with what you would like and what you would like, right? So you need to be very, very clear of that for sure. And from there, you can now cultivate a more solid identity. That's the way I would describe it. It's just a more solid identity, right? And you need to understand when you're in those moments, and I think I referenced this a little bit earlier, but you need to understand when you're in the moments of the picking moment. The picking moment is that crossroad. I think that's what they call, right, where you have two decisions where you could pick you can pick this habit or pick this behavior or pick this way of being, whatever, or you can pick this side right here. What you need to realize is you need to be on the path. What I think I've heard somebody call this the path of righteousness, right? It's going to be, like I said, it's going to lead you to your highest potential, right? And that is going to be, like I mentioned earlier, the heaven scenario, right? So you need to understand when you're in those moments of picking the identity that you would like to uphold, picking the person that you would like to be, right? And in those moments, you need to, like I said, make the right decision. Try to make the right decision at least 8 times out of 10. If you're doing that 8 times out of 10, you're going to be a lot better than a lot of people when it comes to just life in general. You're going to be doing a lot better. You're going to be feeling a lot better. You're going to be surrounding yourself with a lot better people. You're going to be just doing what you know you need to do. Quite frankly, if you're doing it 8 out of 10 times, right? Obviously, ideally, we're striving for at least 9 out of 10. At least 9 out of 10, right? Or yeah, that's something to strive for. I would say 9 out of 10 times you're choosing what you need to. 10 out of 10 times, like I said, nobody's perfect, so I don't expect you to strive for that because I feel like that's an unrealistic expectation to place on yourself, and then it's going to lead you to disappointment. But that is what I would say with that for sure. And like I'd mentioned earlier, right? There's going to be ebbs and flows that come with just life in general, right? There's going to be certain seasons where this is going to feel more comfortable to do. There's going to be certain seasons to say, hey, I want to lay off on this. Um, But yeah, you just need to go ahead and make those distinctions for yourself, for sure. Fellas. Like I said, if you're watching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a like and make sure you go and leave a comment, man. I need more engagement from the comments, man. I'm giving y'all the game, man. It's just so sad, man. So sad. It's crazy how there's a lot more. And I was thinking about this earlier. This is totally off topic, but it's a Life of a Champ podcast. So I'm gonna go ahead and say what I like. It's so interesting to see, certain streamers that I would say I'm in competition with for people's attention. That's pretty much what it is, right? I see plenty of people that are, way more successful than I am, right? But I'm talking about way more interesting conversations than they are having, right? And even maybe even more than they're capable of having. And I find that very interesting because hopefully, in due time, this hard work will pay off. So, like I said, I see it too often. A lot of people that are very, very popular within the streaming community do not promote. They promote some good stuff. They also promote a lot of bad stuff. And on here, I'm not going to be promoting too much negativity at all because, quite frankly, fellas, I'm trying to get y'all. I'm trying to get y'all right. I'm trying to get myself right. So, in that process, I'm going to be talking about that. And it's not the most popular thing. To say the truth, right? And to be trying to help people out. That is not the most popular thing, unfortunately, because it's just not. It's not entertaining, right? A lot of people just look for entertainment, but I would like to be entertaining as well as intellectually stimulating at the very least, right? If I could do that for you guys, that's going to be my ideal. And I'm not going to change. I'm going to be doing certain things that are different next year, but at the same time, I'm going to be still spitting the game like I need to. So giving y'all the game, giving y'all at least a different way of thinking of life, and that's my goal for sure. So yeah, like I said, if you're in here, we got a few people in here, man. Please leave a comment just so I can see who's in here, man. I'm gonna go into what I would define myself to be, right? Like I said, shape and define your identity, right? Another thing I want to mention before I mention what I am, right? You need to do this for yourself, right? If you're going to do something that's in your best interest right now, I'm not saying you have to do this right at this very moment, but I'm saying this is something that you should consider doing at the very least. This is going to be, who are you? What is your identity? What identities are you upholding? What would certain people define you if they've seen your life and they've seen everything? What would they define you as? What names would they call you? Right? You need to be very clear about these things so you can now associate what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, because there is going to be things for sure that you need to get rid of, that deep down you need to get rid of. But there's going to be certain things that you're doing that are great, right? Shout out to you. You're going to be giving yourself a round of applause saying, "Hey, I need to stay consistent with this habit because I'm doing great at it," right? But like I mentioned, you can praise yourself temporarily for the habits that you need to do, but you also need to go ahead and correct the behavior, which does not suggest the best life possibly for you, right? So I would definitely recommend that for sure. Um, yeah, yeah. Make sure you just write a list, right? I'm basically going to give you a list of things that when I think about myself, these are things that I think about. These are ways that I would define myself. If somebody were to look at my life, they would say, "Hey, he's this and this and this," and there'd be plenty of good reason behind it. So I'll get into that in a few minutes. But like I said, what are things that you are, and what are things that you do not want to be? What are things that you are? Yeah, pretty much. What are things you don't want to be? Pretty much. So like I said, yeah, I'm going to give you your praise and give you your, you know, round of applause when you go ahead when you actually need it, right? But there's going to be more constructive criticism that comes from this podcast, which a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people do not want to hear what they truly want to hear, right? They don't want to hear what's best for them. They would rather hear what's it sounds good, right? But I'm focused. I'm focused on making sure everybody watching this podcast just gets better at least a little bit. At the very least, has some different ideas. At the very least, even if you're not conscious of you making the decision or you thinking a certain way, I hope this podcast will influence you to make the best decision possible for your life, right? I feel like that's the same way with like reading books, right? There's a lot of books that I've read that I haven't exactly like had knowledge that I could have applied to life right away, but over time, I've seen the influence of certain books that I've read kind of play a part in the decisions that I do make. So I hope this is something that is going to be something similar to that as well. So hopefully it's a little bit more entertaining than reading a book as well. So, but yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, and like I feel like a lot of people need to take these things a lot more serious, right? You need to think way bigger than yourself, right? You need to think that you are the habits that you choose to do are going to affect generations upon generations. The decisions you make on your day to day life are going to affect generations. They're going to at least affect everybody around you, everybody around you, the lives that they live, the ideas that they have, the people around you will be influenced by the decisions that you make in your life, the routes you choose, and the identities that you choose to uphold, right? And you need to go ahead and, like I said, be very, very clear with what you would like, what you don't like, and yeah, it's just as simple as that. All right, I'm gonna get into it, fellas. Give me 1 second. All right. So, like I said, this is Life of Champ podcast. I'm going to talk about what I feel like talking about, right? And if you guys support me, you support me. If you don't support me, then good vibes or no vibes, man. Get up out of here, man. Simple as that. But I wanted to mention the things that like I said, I thought about when it comes to defining myself and my identity and the identities that I choose to uphold on a daily basis, right? And anyone in my personal life will be able to recognize all of these, and you watching this will also be able to recognize some of these as well, right? So one of the first ways that one of the first things that I thought about when it comes to this question is I'm a thinker because most people don't think this way to do these things, right? So I would define myself and associate my identity to be of those of a thinker, right? Another one of those things with being a good thinker or being a thinker in general, right? To think, you need to observe very, very thoroughly. So I would also associate my identity with a person who observes very, very carefully, who observes at the best, observes at his best when it comes to trying to be objective and trying to hear both sides, right? I'm definitely what I would define to be a good observer, right? I see a lot of people in my life that are doing great things, and I want to be just like them. And I see a lot of people doing bad things, and I want to stay away from those things, right? I'm just very conscious of these things. So I would define myself to be a thinker, an observer. Along with that, which obviously, if you're watching this, you know this next one, right? I would say, my identity that I uphold on a daily basis is going to be that of a content creator or a podcaster, right? That is an identity that I uphold, or a live streamer, or whatever you would like to call me, right? Um, yeah, I would associate my identity with that because that is something that I choose to uphold every single day. Every single day, I'm striving to get better at it. Every single day that I'm alive, I'm going to be putting in the work like I need to put in. Another thing that I would, attach to my identity is going to be a great friend. This is something that I take very much great pride in, right? I'm a great friend. Anybody and everybody around me knows that I'm a great friend. I'm a person you can come to talk about anything with, whether it's to joke around or whether it's to take life serious, right? Or if you need help or whatever, I'm there. I'm there. I'm a person who's going to be supportive of the ones who support me. So yeah, it's just as simple as that, right? I'm just here, I'm here to have conversations and things like that when people do need them. So I would define myself to be a great friend, and most people around me would also say that I'm a great friend when it comes to those certain things. It's just in the little subtleties as well. Um, even if they don't, even if they don't, no, no, I won't say that. But yeah, it's just in the subtleties, the subtle things that I do that would make me what I would deem to be a great friend. Um, Along with that, another thing that what I would uphold to my identity, which is something that I'm proud of as well, right? This is going to be reliable, right? In a world filled with unreliability and people who are not reliable and people who don't keep their word, I'm a person who tries my absolute best, and I not only do I try, but I also say that I try, which is more important. Which, well, I won't say more important, but which is important in itself, right? To be reliable. I try to be reliable. I try to be consistent as much as I possibly can, right? And at the very least, it is a voiced effort, right? And a lot of people don't even voice the fact that they're trying to be like that. I'm trying to be like that, and people will eventually hold me accountable if I need to be held accountable in those certain situations. But I'm a person who is reliable, and if you need something and I can do it, I'm going to do it for you. If you need me to be somewhere and I need to be at that place, I will try to be there as much as I possibly can, right? Just know that I'm doing everything in my effort possible to go ahead and try to do that. So I'm definitely reliable, and this is something that I would say If you watching this, I would say attach that to your identity. Become a reliable person. Try to be a person of your word as much as you possibly can, because people respect that. People need that in their life. Truly, they truly need that. Another with this, I would also attach to my identity me being loyal, me being very very loyal. Right. Everyone in my life knows that I'm loyal. If you keep it 1,000 with me, if you stay on good terms with me, we will always be friends. We will always be on good terms. It's as simple as that, right? I will always be open to conversation for the most part. And the reason I mention these things is because I don't see a lot of people truly like this. Sadly, in my inner circle, of course, but outside of my inner circle, no, I don't see it at all. Quite frankly, I see it very very rarely. It's sprinkled. It's sprinkled through the population. Sprinkled through the population, but it's not it's not a common thing. I would say that. Sadly, not a common thing. Not a common thing that people are loyal. It's not a common thing that people are reliable. Right? It's not a common thing that people are great friends or have great friends. It's as simple as that. Along with this, another thing that I would attach to my identity is me being a great conversationalist. Right? A lot of people suck at conversation. Right? Me doing this podcast has opened my eyes so wide when it comes to recognizing other people's insufficiencies when it comes to conversation, right? When it comes to problem solving, when it comes to just, being able to ask questions to get to know somebody, right? It's honestly laughable, right? I didn't think that, doing this would, lead me to that conclusion, but yeah, it is the sad reality of life. It's something that I observe, right? A lot of people suck at conversation. And one thing I want to mention, which shout out to KJ, I had a conversation with him earlier. If there's a person in your life that is being dry, right? Let's just say it's a woman that you're trying to talk to or whatever, a man that you're trying to talk to, right? Right? If they're being dry with you, or if they're being inconsistent, if they're being, a certain way that isn't exactly conducive to a healthy interaction, one, or good at conversation, right? Either one, they don't have any interest in you, or two, they just suck at conversation. And either or should end in the same result, which is disassociate yourself from that person, because quite frankly, that is not the energy that we need. We don't need that type of energy. We need some consistent energy. We need some energy that gives, not just takes. If that makes any sense, right? But yeah, I would say I'm a great conversationalist. I get along with pretty much all people that most people, 99% of the time I get along with people. It's very, very rare that I interact with somebody that does not get along with me, right? Um, and with that, I'm a great conversationalist. I've, asked the right questions. I've observed certain things. I make conversation very easy to be had, and that is something that I take pride in, and something that I would attach to my identity. Along with this, which I will keep going, I'll take a break. I'll take a break to talk about something else. But one more thing that I want to mention, and something that I think everyone should adopt in their own certain way when it comes to their identity, is going to be me being a good son, brother, and uncle, right? So being good to the ones around you, truly good to the ones around you, somebody that would take a bullet for those people around them, right? That is something that I would define myself and attach to my identity. And a lot of people sadly aren't that, or sadly, put themselves in a position to not be that as much as they possibly can. And I'm a person who, takes pride in trying to be a good influence and trying to help them out as much as I possibly can. And that is what I would attach to my identity as well. So with that, I'm gonna go over the things that I already mentioned. If you're watching this, I appreciate for watching. I still have some more things on my list, but like I said, I want to reemphasize the fact that you should do the same thing. You should be very very clear with the identity you choose to uphold. Not only the identity you choose to uphold, how do you treat people? Do you treat people good? Do you treat people like shit? I'll be honest with yourself, right? A lot of people won't be honest with themselves and won't honestly say that they treat people like shit, but they do, right? Be honest with yourself, and yeah, it's as simple as that. Be honest with yourself. So write down when you have the time and when you want to make the time. Not when you have the time. Let me go back. When you make the time, right? Specifically, what identity do you choose to uphold? What are certain things that you would associate your character with? From an observer's point of view, right? If they could see your entire life, what are certain things that they notice about your life and say, hey, that person is a certain way, or that they would label you a certain thing for upholding that certain identity, right? Think about these things thoroughly, good and bad. I only have good on here, quite frankly. I only have good on here. Um, the bad is where I keep for myself and I work on myself. Okay, and be honest with yourself. Put down the good things, put down the bad things, because there's going to be a lot of good things, and there's going to be some bad things for sure. They need conscious efforts to go ahead and correct. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna go down what I already mentioned earlier. So every single time you choose to do a bad habit or a good habit or act a certain way, whether it's a good or a bad way, you are upholding an identity unconsciously, right? If you act a certain way that is negative, like being unloyal or um, being a person who isn't supportive, or being a person who isn't okay. Being loyal. Let's just say that for example, right? If you're not a person that is upholding that identity, right? You cannot expect that to be reciprocated on your end, right? Because you chose a certain way of being, you chose a certain character trait, you chose a certain way to uphold your identity, right? And you can't expect something out of somebody else if you can't even be that for yourself, right? So I think it's just as simple as that, right? Every single time you do a habit or choose to be doing something or have a certain behavior towards something, you are unconsciously upholding an identity, and make sure that identity is as good as it possibly can be. Another thing with that is I would recommend everyone watching this to never associate themselves with negativity. And like I said, you need to have the actions behind going to go ahead and correct that, which I mentioned thoroughly on here. But yeah, do not associate yourself with negativity. There's going to be the difference between associating yourself with negativity and actually writing down your identity, right? I feel like there's a lot of ways of being that people would sadly attach their identity, right? There's people that say, "Hey, oh, I'm depressed," right? They would associate with that with their identity, and that is not something that is conducive to the most healthy life that you possibly can live. It's not, right? So I would never like something like that, right? I would never associate my way of being for that, right? I would just never do that, right? Regardless of my life circumstance, I would say, you know what, I'm going to associate myself with only positivity. I'm only going to say things, act in certain ways that's going to suggest the best life possibly for me. And I think that's a philosophy that everyone should be taking, right? Anyone that has a different philosophy on life than that, I just don't think you're living the best life you possibly can live. And it is just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that, right? But yeah, don't define yourself or associate yourselves with negativity, man. It's as simple as that, right? More specifically, the flaw that I see in a lot of people is, associating themselves with negative self-talk, right? Do not talk down upon yourself, right? There's going to be certain moments and times where you're going to need to criticize yourself for the best version of yourself, right? But at the same time, don't talk negatively about you in certain ways that is very, very limiting to your potential, right? Do not cap yourself like that. Do not cap yourself like that because you're not doing the best thing for the world. You're not. You're not doing the best thing for the ones around you, more specifically, right? But yeah, it's just as simple as that, right? And in those moments, like I said, you need to be very, very conscious, right? You need to be very, very conscious of choosing to uphold or choosing to, act in a certain way that is negative. You need to be very conscious and in the moment and saying maybe, well, at least I know that I'm doing this, and I can't be a victim if I already know, right? And with that being said, like I said, there's going to be the moments of decision. There's going to be those picking moments where you choose, where you have the option, because you always have options to choose specifically the ways in which you would like to act. And with that being said, try to pick the best decision you possibly can every single time. It's not going to happen every single time, but be conscious of it at least. With that being said, like I mentioned earlier, you need to create a heaven and hell scenario for the identity that you would like it to uphold or to not uphold. For your negative self, if you fell into temptation, if you fell into lust, if you fell into being vengeful, being very very cold with people, right? The absolute negative behaviors. You're always angry, you're always sad all the time, right? Create a potential identity for yourself and use the negatives to try to create the positive identity that you would like to uphold. Reverse all those things that are negative and create a positive paradigm for your identity that you would like to uphold, right? So do that and strive for the heaven scenario that you create for yourself. It's as simple as that. Strive for the heaven scenario because eventually you'll be a lot closer to that than hopefully the hell scenario. And it's as simple as that, right? Um, a lot of people, a lot of people maybe even watching this are a lot closer to their hell scenario than they would like to admit. Like I said, fellas, this is why I'm making the podcast in the first place because everybody's in a different place in their life and everybody needs to be conscious of the place that they are currently in. And don't be in denial. Don't be in denial either. You know damn well whether you're closer to your hell scenario or closer to your heaven scenario. You know damn well better than anybody. Don't cheat yourself. Don't lie to yourself either. Be honest. Be very, very brutally honest with themselves, right? That's another thing, man. People aren't brutally honest with themselves, right? That's something that I observe, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, how? At the end of the day, I'm my biggest critic, which is sadly a character flaw, but it can be used for positive. It can be used for positive, but people that are not harsh on themselves, man, I just don't know, man. I don't know, man. Yeah, life is tough. Life is tough, but that's just something that I see personally, right? But you get the message of the podcast. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I wish you guys were to comment more because the engagement would be fantastic on this podcast, but it's fine. KJ, appreciate you for holding it down. Hopefully by the end of this year, that is my goal. I'm trying to, have conversations that I need to have to get that up and going, but I definitely want to have that very, very soon. Also, something I want to mention as well. In 1 week from today, it will be my 21st birthday. And on that day, I will be having a podcast for damn sure, just for the people, man. I have to do it for me, and I have to do it for the people. So in 1 week from today, I'll be turning 21, and I'll be doing a podcast for sure. Episode number, what is it, 86? Yeah, 86. Sure, 86. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that's something that I just felt like mentioning for sure. Yeah, got a lot of things that I'm trying to cook up by the end of this month. There's a lot of actions that I'm trying to take and a lot of ways that I'm trying to be by the end of this month to get myself in a position to thrive next year, all 2023. And if you know me personally, fellas, you know what 2023 is going to look like. It's Takeover 23, fellas. It's Takeover 23, right? This is everybody watching this. This is your year. This upcoming year is your year, right? It's time to take over. It's time to be all the ways you know you need to be, and it's time for you to sacrifice all the ways you know you need to sacrifice. Takeover 23. I'm leading the way, fellas. I'm leading the way, man. Life being tough is not necessarily being a bad thing. In order to succeed, you need to toughen through the bad times. I agree 1000%. That is the difference between somebody who creates a victim mentality for themselves versus a person who takes absolute responsibility and accountability for their life. Now, people live in different, very, very different paradigms, right? And if you're stuck in one paradigm, it's honestly hard to see the other side of the paradigm. I'm a person who is slowly disassociating myself so far away from the negativity that it's hard to relate with people who experience those negative emotions. And that sounds great. Which it is great. No, 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 don't get me wrong. It is absolutely fantastic, right? But when it comes to trying to relate with people, sometimes it's going to be a little bit harder to relate. And I think it's just as simple as that. I want to be a relatable person. I do want to be a relatable person. I want to be somebody who you could be. I want to be somebody you could be, essentially. This will lead you to having a better life physically and mentally because you've been through bad times, bad things, which mean yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's spitting facts, man. KJ's everything you've been spitting recently, man, has just been straight heat, man. Straight heat, man. Simple as that. But yeah, he's exactly right, man. People fall under pressure, man. They're not clutch, man. Some people are diamonds, man. Be a diamond. Be a diamond. Shout out to D the Diamond, man. Shout out to D the Diamond if you're watching, man. But I'm gonna get back to what I would define myself to be. How did that even happen? I'm gonna get back to what I define myself to be. I'm gonna give you the rest that I have on my list, and then after that, you need to sit down with yourself eventually, either this weekend or beginning of next week before the next podcast. You need to sit down with yourself and say, "Hey, I am this way, and I want to be like this, and I want to stay away from me being like this." Right? Be honest with yourself. All right. Getting back to what I was saying. Give me 1 second. The identities that I choose to uphold. All right. The identities that I choose to uphold contain being consistently consistent. This is something that I would recommend everyone to be. Regardless of what it is, be consistently consistent at it, right? The people who are consistently consistent beat out everybody else. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how hard you work. If you're not consistent, it doesn't matter. The people who are consistently consistent within the gym, within life, within work, are going to outwork every other person that only does it when they want to do it, right? I'm a person who is striving to be a person who does it when he doesn't even feel like doing it, but I do it because I know it's right. That is something that I'm striving. That is an ideal worth striving for, in my opinion, and that is something that I'm striving for myself. But yeah, it is just as simple as that. Along with me being consistently consistent, as that is an identity I uphold. Another thing that I will say with that is I'm a person who outworks the competition, who outworks other people in the same life circumstance. I'm a person who outworks people, right? It is the motto of the podcast. It's getting to the end of the podcast, but I'll say it for the first time on this podcast, and then, like I said, I'll say it again later. But fellas out here, man, we just don't work, man. We don't just work out here, man. We outwork, man. So make sure you outworking these motherfuckers every single day, man. It's as simple as that, right? That's the motto, man. That's the motto. We outwork out over here, man. I go to the gym 6 days a week. Going 7 days a week to the gym is absolutely pointless. Absolutely ridiculous. It's too much. Now, there's a lot of people that go to the gym 5 days a week. That's fine. That's great for you. But just know, me on my sixth day, in my mind, I'm conscious knowing that I outwork you. It's as simple as that. Now, you can have that same paradigm with, the people who go 4 days a week. You're outworking them, but you ain't outworking me. That's for damn sure, fellas. Um, but yeah, or you can not. I wouldn't say you outwork me, but you can work as hard as I do, right? That is something to strive for sure. But that is one of those examples where I attach that to my identity that I outwork, right? That is something that I would recommend everyone watching this. Uphold that identity. You outwork, man. It's gonna help you out. It's gonna help you out. It's gonna make you strive for a better life. That's the way I see it. All right. Along with that, this is something that I've thought about for a while now. This is another identity that I choose to uphold, which is to inspire. I'm a person who's an inspiration to others, right? This is something that I know I need to lead by example with. And this is something that I have been doing and will continue to do for the rest of my life, right? I will be an inspiration. That is why, if you look right over here, it says evolve to inspire. It is one of the things that I came up with myself, right? In order to be an inspiration to anyone, you would first need to take the evolution of oneself very, very seriously. Once you evolve to a certain point, you can now be an inspiration to others. You evolve to inspire, right? Everyone watching this should be striving to be an inspiration to somebody. Whether your impact is small or whether you want your impact to be as big as mine, right? You need to strive for that because that is also going to, have a different. You're going to have a different paradigm on life. You're going to choose things more consciously. You're going to choose things more strategically. If you know that the decisions you make, the evolution that you take, is going to change the world, or is just going to change somebody around you, right? You need to be very conscious of these things. And I'm a person who inspires, and I will continue. Like I said, I will continue to be this. This is something that is my absolute purpose, and I will continue to pursue it for the rest of my life. And it's as simple as that. But with that being said, the only way you truly can inspire is you inspire through actions, right? So I would say that I'm a person who is choosing the correct actions every single day, or at the very least, as much as I am trying, right? To inspire the people that I need to inspire, man. All right, the next thing I would uphold, the next identity I choose to uphold is going to be a person who seeks the truth. Regardless of how hard the truth is, regardless of how ugly the truth is, I'm a person who is seeking of the truth, right? I do not want to have this naive veil over my face, right? I'm a person who seeks the truth because the truth is a must in my opinion, right? That's the only way that I see it, right? It's attached to my identity. It's a must. Anybody that chooses to not see the truth, to have that innocent and naive veil over their face, over their eyes, right, is a person that I would stay away from, right? You should not try to surround yourself with people who are naive, because if you do, it's going to be hard to relate. It's going to be hard to see things the same way if one person is so closed-minded to, seeking the truth. I'm a person who seeks the truth, and it's as simple as that. All right. Along with all these, which you can kind of see this. This is kind of obvious. But another identity that I choose to uphold is being a person who is very, very self-disciplined. I take pride in that because I know that not many people have self-discipline. Truly, they don't. So I'm a person who takes pride in that because I need to take pride in that, right? This is something that it should be, at the very least, an ideal that you strive for, to be a very self disciplined person. This is something that I have been cultivating for the last few years, right? To become better at this certain life choice, right? I'm a person who, knows what he needs to do and tries to act in the ways that he knows he needs to act every single day. That's my goal, right? I'll feel satisfied with my day if I do all the things that I know I needed to do that day, right? If I checked all the boxes that I needed to do that day. Along with that, give me a second, fellas. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I got like maybe three or more, and then I'm done. Like I said, along with this, if you're watching this, and you want to create a list, while I'm saying these things, I hope I give you ideas of what to strive for, or at the very least, maybe I give you a better idea. Maybe you watching this you're an observer, right? You're a good observer. You observe a lot of the things around you, right? You observe a lot of the people around you, right? With that being said, at least maybe hopefully me saying these things can inspire you to write down that you're an observer. Gives you kind of opens your eyes to defining yourself as that. All right, the next thing that I would define myself and attach to my identity is going to be a person who's an intellectual. I am an intellectual, and it's as simple as that, right? I seek the truth. I'm a person who does the research on the things that he feels he needs to do the research on, and I'm a person who can have intellectual conversations with almost anybody if they dig deep enough. If they're willing to have the conversation and willing to ask the right questions, I'm a person who's able to keep up with most. Let's just say that when it comes to conversation. I take very much pride in that because it is something that I'm striving for. I'm striving for, being a person who's going to be smart, right? You should be striving for that as well. You should be striving to be the smartest version of yourself. And if you're not, then I don't know what the hell you're doing, quite frankly. Like I don't you're playing the game on easy mode, fellas. You need to play a little bit more serious, right? And yeah, I'm a person who's an intellectual. It's as simple as that. I'm good at having conversations with people who are also intellectuals. Conversation flows very very easily. I don't struggle at all. There's always unlimited conversation when it comes to talking to somebody who's an intellectual, and I'm one of those people. If you're a person who asks the right questions or who says the right things, the right things, right? To for the best of the conversation, then we're going to have a very long, very very detailed, and very very in-depth conversation, and it's as simple as that. Along with me being an intellectual, another thing that I uphold through my identity is going to be a person who does the research on his opinions and the conclusions that he comes to about certain topics. Right? I'm not a person who just blindly complies and blindly believes everything that they're told. And this is something that I mentioned in my How to Think podcast, right? How to think critically, specifically, right? If you're a person who, it believes everything they're told, that is something that I would recommend for you to watch, right? Because it is going to be a podcast that hopefully allows you to think for yourself, right? Whether you like the content or whether you don't like the content, at the very least, hopefully you're thinking for yourself, right? Hopefully you're not just believing everything you're told and blindly complying to everything that everybody tells you, right? Because if you do, you'll be nothing more than a pawn in the game of life, right? People control you, people can push you around, people can discard you very easily, right? So I'm a person who does thorough research on my opinions and my beliefs and my conclusions that I have on this life because I feel like that's the only way to go about certain situations. Of course, there's certain situations where opinion isn't exactly needed, but when it comes to defending your point on something, that is something that I would say you need to go ahead and do, right? And now, with that being said, with the person who does thorough research on his opinions and his conclusions that he has about life, I'm also a person who's open minded to hear other people's point of view still, right? There's something that I can learn, right? I seek understanding within conversations, like I had mentioned on my last podcast. And with that being said, I'm not closed minded. Now, you're going to have to give me an argument that's going to suggest that that you know what you're talking about. And it's as simple as that, right? And I feel like anyone that takes the advice of any person or hears anybody out needs to know that that person has done the research, right? And I will change my opinion gladly, happily, if that person has thought about things way deeper than I have. I'll take your opinion because it's more of a thought out point of view. Now, there's a lot of things that aren't thought out that I see within society that are just hey, go ahead and do this, and everybody's like, okay, okay, I'll do it. Nothing but NPCs out here, man. Damn near, man. Exactly. If you can't back up your statements with evidence, then your point is invalid. Exactly. It's invalid. Um, that comes along with being a good conversationalist, being an observer, being a thinker, right? If you're able to do all these things, you're going to be a person who has thorough opinions and has thorough beliefs and has thorough morals and values that should be respected and should be upheld at all times, right? People will always be making stuff up based on society. No, exactly right. It's exactly right, right. Now, most opinions that I have, I would say 95, 96, probably 96% of the opinions that I have are going to be something that I thought out there very, very thoroughly, right? There's very rare there's very rare situations where I find myself in where somebody challenges my point of view on something and I say, I don't know what to say, or I believe you instantly, right? It's very, very, very rare, right? But like I said, I'm open to it. All right, another thing that I would uphold, which I think is kind of referenced a little bit earlier, but I'll mention it anyways. I'm a person who tells the truth. I'm a person who tries to tell the truth as much as he possibly can. Now, this is a worthy pursuit and a worthy identity to uphold for anyone watching this, right? Be a person who tells the truth as much as they possibly can. Do not be a person who lies, right? Tell the truth as much as you possibly can. You're going to be more of a respectable person in my eyes if you're telling the truth always or as much as you possibly can, right? And it's as simple as that. Along with that, the last thing that I have, and I'm gonna end it off with this, fellas. I got a few people texting me. The identity that I choose to uphold is going to be that I'm a great speaker, and eventually, in due time, I will be one of the best speakers that exist within this earth. And it's as simple as that, right? That is something that I'm striving for and something that I will put the work in. And you heard it here first. I will be one of the best speakers that will be known to man at this current point in time. I'm telling you right now, I will be. And it is because I'm a person who's going to be open to have the conversations. I'm going to be a person who curates his word in the ways that he knows he should. And I'm going to be a person who tells the truth, and people are going to be able to feel that. I'm going to be real and authentic, unlike a lot of people, right? And people are going to recognize that, and people are going to understand that I know what the hell I'm talking about a lot of different things. Regardless of you would say, hey, you don't know anything, you're young. Watch the podcast, and you tell me if I know anything or not. It's as simple as that. But yes, I will be a great speaker, and I will be one of the best speakers of this generation. I'm saying it, and you heard it here first, fellas. It's as simple as that, man. With that being said, I want you guys to leave your final thoughts on the podcast, right? That's something that I wish you would do. What are your final thoughts on today's podcast? Is this something that, like I said, if I'm talking bullshit, let me know, man. Let me know. Please leave it in the comments. Please leave it in the comments, man. Man, I got too many people texting me, man. My boy KJ, appreciate you stopping by, man. Oh, okay. Hey, y'all sleeping on KJ right now, man. Y'all need to stop sleeping on KJ, man. That boy is he's getting the knowledge. He's getting the knowledge that he needs. He's getting the knowledge that he needs. He's taking all the things that he knows he needs to do, and it's as simple as that, right? Like I said, be more like KJ. That's the motto for today's podcast. Be more like KJ, man. Simple as that. Be adaptable. Be willing to hear people's opinions, and be willing to make your own conclusions based off of people's opinions. And a person who surrounds himself with the right people. Be more like KJ. Simple as that. But other than that, fellas, like I said, I'll give you all about 2 more minutes to leave a comment. If you want to leave a comment, or if you're rewatching this video, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment just so I can see it, and I will respond as fast as I possibly can. You have my word. But with that being said, I do think this was a solid podcast, and I think it was very, very much needed when it comes to life in general, right? I think people need this podcast, whether they like to admit it or not. But I think this was a solid one, fellas. It's okay. Sadly, I don't get the recognition that I truly deserve, but in due time, fellas, in due time, you put enough work in, people will recognize you put the work in. And it's as simple as that. I think that this podcast has helped me witness about how I need to hear from my boy, knowing what I need to know and how to go on with the path of success. Appreciate it, champ. You know I got you, my dog. You know I got you, man. Appreciate you for watching. Appreciate you for the recognition, man. Simple. Support always, man. Support. And yeah. If you're a person watching this and you like the content that I produce, man, like I said, make sure you go ahead and tap in with the TikToks. It's Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. Also, make sure you go ahead and tap in with the YouTube Shorts as well. I posted a lot of YouTube Shorts and would appreciate if you go ahead and watch those. The ones that I posted today, man, the game, boy, the game. I'm telling you, I'm helping people out, man. I'm helping people out, and it's as simple as that. But other than that, I appreciate everyone stopping by. I appreciate Joe if you're still in here, man. I got a new subscriber, man. Come on now, you know what time it is, man. But other than that, fellas, I appreciate everyone stopping by. Like I said, if you're watching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment on your favorite part, and also if you chose, to do what I told you, the suggestion that I mentioned, right? If you chose to do that, let me know as well. But other than that, fellas, you guys have a good rest of your nights. One more time for the motto. Fellas out here, we don't just work, man. We outwork. So make sure you outworking these motherfuckers every single day. Stay tuned for the live stream. I'm probably going to be doing a live stream hopefully this weekend. If not this weekend, I'm going to be doing it Monday. So stay tuned in for that. I'm going to try to do it on the weekend, but I have done a little bit of research, and I think that streaming is not the best on the weekend. So I'm more than likely going to lean on a Monday. But, turn the post notifications on, and you'll see when I go ahead and go live. But other than that, you guys have a good rest of your night. Until next week, the week of my birthday. Looking forward to that. Y'all have a good rest of your night, man. And like I said, make sure I work in these motherfuckers. As simple as that, man.